So the All Black squad for the November internationals has just been announced. The squad taking on the Irish, Scottish, English and also the Welsh throughout that November international window. And looking through at the sides, there aren't a lot of big changes. Predominantly injury based, but of course with the All Blacks XV also playing, that is where we will see those bolters, the young players that people wanted to see, make this All Black squad for November. But jumping straight into it, for the hookers, this is where we see the lone change in the whole squad based off form rather than injury. Cody Taylor, he is still going to be with the squad for November. Samisoni Taukei'aho, he is the second choice hooker in this case. And then the third, it is actually George Bell. So no Brodie McAllister for November. That was the slightly expected change from Scott Robertson. It just seemed like McAllister wasn't quite finding his feet at international level, plus wasn't really getting a huge amount of game time. George Bell, he's been solid throughout Super Rugby since his return, as well as in the NPC, so he does end up with that third hooker spot. Now, I will mention Asafo Moa still unavailable, going through protocols for concussion, so he's been out for quite some time. Bit of a concern for Asafo Moa, as he was definitely a player people wanted to see make this All Black squad. Moving on to the props, this is where there are two injuries the All Blacks are dealing with: Tyrell Lomax as well as Ollie Norris. Lomax, it is that same thumb that he ended up injuring earlier on in the year, and for Ollie Norris, it is a back injury that will leave the loose head out for November. So the props are Ethan de Groot, Tamaiti Williams, George Bauer. He is the replacement for Ollie Norris, also scoring his first ever try at international level in the last game up against the Australians. Fletcher Null, Pasilio Tosi, and then the lone debutant in this All Black squad, it is Tavita Mafileo. So he was the initial injury cover for Tyrell Lomax, now makes his way into the squad. For the locks, it is Scott Barrett, Patrick Tuipulotu, Fabian Holland, and also Josh Lord. So Josh Lord coming in for the injury of Tupavai. He was initially named in that second test up against the Australians, but due to injury, had to pull out, and it was actually much worse than first anticipated. He will be out for the whole of November. Been playing a bit of lock as well as in that blindside flanker role for New Zealand. So Josh Lord, he gets the opportunity alongside some pretty good form coming from some of the locks out of this New Zealand squad. But moving on to the loose forward trio, this is where we do see Sama Penifenau once again retain his spot. Simon Parker, Artie Savia, who will be vice-captain for November, Duplessis Karefi, Wallace Satiti, Peter Larkai, and also Luke Jacobson. So the exact same as what we saw for the Rugby Championship squad. No changes here. Now, there are a few names that were getting thrown around as potential inclusions in this squad. Someone like a Christian Leo Willie or a Devon Flanders, but they are more than likely going to be with the All Blacks XV rather than in this main All Black squad. Moving on to the backs in the nines. We did see the injury of Noah Hotham, so he is out for November. In his place, they have gone with Finlay Christie. He did get that chance up against South Africa at Eden Park. They're going with that more experienced option, seeing as they are playing Ireland, England, Scotland, and Wales. But there are a few halfback names getting thrown around as well. Someone like a Dylan Pledger or a Kyle Preston. Those guys more than likely getting selected for the All Blacks XV. Also in the halfbacks, Cortez Ratama. He hasn't had a huge amount of game time since returning from his injury, and that is predominantly because this man is also back, that being Cam Roigard. He has looked like a star since returning. He's had his fair share of injuries, so I don't think they'll take too many risks with him, but he will be starting quite a few matches if he is match fit. For November, the two first fives, Beauden Barrett and also Damian McKenzie. So Barrett has recovered from his injury. He will be returning and probably in the starting lineup with what we've seen from Scott Robertson so far this year. In the midfield, it will be Anton Leonard-Brown, Geordie Barrett, Quinn Tupaia, Billy Proctor, Lester Whaiananuku, and he did get that game up against the Australians, so he is now fully eligible to play for the All Blacks. The question Scott Robertson now has to answer, is he a winger or is he an outside centre? We did see Quinn Tupaia do extremely well in that 13 jersey in Bledisloe Cup match 2, so Whaiananuku, he did start out on the left wing, so I would think predominantly that is where we're going to see him, but then that was also due to the injury of Caleb Clark. So now that Clark is back, does Whaiananuku squeeze into that starting side, or is he more so that impact player could make his way off of the bench? Also, Rieko Ioane, some asking the same thing about that man. Some thought he was heading to Leinster, but that is actually happening a little bit later in the year. But the midfield, once again, no real surprises from Scott Robertson. In this department, moving on to the outside backs, it is Caleb Clark, Sevu Reece, Leroy Carter, so he comes in as the full-time replacement for Amoni Narawa. Sadly suffered that injury in the match up against the South Africans. He's had some pretty poor luck when it comes to that All Blacks kit, which is a shame because he did actually score himself a try before going off in the first few minutes. Will Jordan and then also Ruben Love, who they're still trying to find a way of giving game time, but can only get himself a few minutes off the bench at this point in time. Also players who were injured that I haven't mentioned so far. Ofa Tuangafasi, so he is still out with his early injury that he did have. And then also no Stephen Perafeta as of yet for the ABs. But that is the All Blacks squad, ladies and gentlemen. And like I said, anyone who's looking for those bolters, the All Blacks XV is where you will find them. Jamie Joseph announcing his side hopefully in the very near future regarding who will be making their way north to also play for the November internationals. It has been mentioned that both coaches will be working together, so that means if there are injuries in the All Blacks, we will see those guys from the All Blacks XV get those call-ups, and anytime that happens, we will have the updates on the channel for you. So be sure, if you are new, to hit that subscribe button, but let me know what you think of this squad. It definitely doesn't have the surprises that some were after, but it is a stock standard All Blacks squad, and by the end of the year, we will know if this is the best team possible for New Zealand or whether there are a few players who could take some spots for the next year. But thank you all very much for watching. If you did enjoy, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you all for the next one.